Greetings, salutations. Welcome back to our segment on Portswigger Web Security Academy. We are covering SQL injection. Today's focus is on blind SQL injection with conditional errors. So as always, we want to come down here and access the lab and let that get fired up. This lab contains a blind SQL injection vulnerability. The application uses a tracking cookie for analytics and performs a SQL query containing the value of the submitted cookie. The result of the SQL query are not returned, and the application may not respond in any differently based on whether the query returns any rows. If the SQL query causes an error, then the application returns a custom error message. The database contains a different table called users with a column called username and password. You need to exploit blind SQL injection vulnerability to find out the password of the administrator user. To solve the lab, log in as administrator. And we have a hint. In this lab, it uses an Oracle database, which means we need to be using Oracle syntax. All right, so let's go ahead and come over here. And we say click my account or something, fires up. So let's come back over here and let's turn interceptor on, and we're just going to send this to repeater. And click that and send. Okay, that gives us something we can look at. So I'm gonna go back to proxy, turn that one back off, go back to repeater. So now we have something here we can mess with. So what we want to look at here is the cookie, the tracking ID, and what if we put a single quotation and click send? Does it react? It does react. It says internal server error, so we know we can get an error message. So like previously, let's try the AND operator and 1 equals 1. 1 equals 1, not minus 1, right? And then we want to do something like the dash to comment it out. And we'll hit send. Nothing happened. It's because it's a true statement, maybe? With that in mind, let's go ahead and change 1 equals 2. This should be false. Still no errors. So we don't get errors because both these are valid SQL queries. So we have been using like Boolean logic true or false to get information out of the SQL server, the database. But what can we do if this doesn't work? Well, we're gonna have to find a way that we can pull information out of it, and we'll be using something that is known as a case statement, a case function. And it's very similar to, I guess, like if then, if you're used to programming logic. So let's get into that, shall we? So we're going to erase this part. We're going to erase all the way up to the and. We're going to put a space there and open our parentheses. We're going to do select. We're going to do case. And then we're going to do when, parentheses, 1 equals 1. Okay. And then we're going to do 2 underscore character, char, and then parenthesis 1 divided by 0, which is impossible. So I believe the 2 underscore character is a syntax that is going to be specific to Oracle. So we're going to continue from there. And then, so that's kind of like the if statement part, right? So we need the else statement. With the else statement is what's it going to do after that. So we're going to say select A, so the single quote A, single quote, and then we have to do end. So when we have a case function, you had to have an end on it to end that syntax there. And from there, we're going to go from, so we're going to pull it from what database. And since we know this is Oracle already, since we don't have to look that up, they gave us as a cheat. We know that all Oracle should have a dual table. So we're going to choose that. And probably another issue or signature, if you will, of Oracle databases is you always have to pull from a database table when doing these. So we're in our parentheses there. We're going to say equal a select. Let's put a space here. And then we have our 2 dashes in the statement. Okay, so with that said, so what we got, we have that little single bracket and select case when 1 equals 1, then 2 character 1 divided by 0, which is impossible. Else A from the dual. Okay, so let's try this. We'll click send. We get an error message. Okay. What if we make says 1 equals 2? If we do that, then we have a no error page. So what we have here, when we say 1 equals 2, we know that's false. Then it skips to the else, which A equals A from dull, and that gives us no error. But if we go back and we put the 1 there and send it, we get an error, which means it's looking at this portion right here. So we can get true or false statements, Boolean logic, if we edit this portion here. And this is where we're going to put our information in to query, if you will, like a subquery. So one of the first things we will want to do is we're going to edit all this right here. And we're going to utilize the length that we did in the previous lab here. So length, and we're going to put password in here. And then we want to say, is it greater than 1? Then we're going to do that 2 character thing again. And then we're going to put 1 over 0. That doesn't look 1 over 0, does it? See if you're paying attention. Okay, cool. 1 over 0. Else A equals, or else A, and from, and we're not going to do data anymore. We need to pull from the users table because they gave that to us earlier. Okay, so we got the from right there. And then we need to say where the username, because username is the column, and it equals, and what was the administrator? So from there, we need to close, we got to close there. That's perfect. And then A equals that. Okay. So we'll click send. Since we got an error, we know that it's more than 1 character. Okay. So what if we change this 1 to say 35, right? If we click send, seems even more. I see the mistake that I've done. I'm so sorry. This right here, this thing that shows true, we should have wiped that one out. Okay, so when the length of the password is greater than 35, let's see. If you get the no error, so you go back to 1, is it greater than 1? If you get an error message, so yes. So if we try, say, 30, is it greater than 30? No. So we can keep doing this until we get down to what the number might be. But instead, we can right click. We can send this to intruder. Let's pop over there. We'll clear our payload marks, and we will go to that integer of 30 here. And we're going to click add. And we're going to go down to the numbers. And we're going to say, I want you, since we know it's not 1, and we know it isn't 30, let's just do 29. And we say go from 2 to 29 with 1 step, and we will tell it to start attack. And since we're using Community Edition, it will be throttled down, but this is not that many, so that's fine. And we don't have a comment, or we didn't use the settings earlier, right? Because we could come over here into the grep section and actually change some stuff. Remember, like we did last time? We'll do that on the next round, okay? So let's go on ahead and minimize this. So what we're looking for is a change in length. Okay. Right here. So we know it's larger than 19, but not larger than 20, which means the password is 20 characters. That's perfect. We don't need that. Please discard. So let's move back to repeater. Okay, so what do we do now that we know that there's 20 characters? Now we got to find out what each character is in the password. So let's find out. So let's come back over here. So select case is fine when yes. So the length of the password portion we don't really need anymore. So let's omit that. So when sub string, and I believe this is also one of the syntaxes that you would use specifically for Oracle, if I remember right. Fact check me. All right, so we'll do password again. And then actually we don't put any quotes there. We need to put a comma, space 1, comma, space 1 in parentheses. And then we need to do is equals A, or select A. Then to char 1 divided by 0, else A in from users where username is administrator. I believe that's all correct. And we'll click send. And no error, so that means it's probably correct. So we could go through this one by one, or like we mentioned earlier, intruder. So let's come back to intruder, clear any marks. Then what we're looking for is this A right here, the one after the password. We want to put our payload markers around that. And this time, instead of numbers, we will do the brute enforcer, which is like A through Z, and then 0 through 9. And the maximum and minimum we're going to do is 1 for both of these. Okay, perfect. And then for fun, we're going to go down to settings and we're going to scroll down to the grep section, which is like a find. We're going to clear all these, and I think we could just put the word error, because it does say like syntax or server error or something like that. And let's start this attack. So this shouldn't take terribly long. And to see if we can find out what the first character is. Is it going to be an alphabetical? Is it going to be a number? We'll wait for this to go through, and we should find out fairly soon. So it does look like there's multiple error messages, maybe. Let's see here. Oh, look here. So we know that Z is the first character. That was the 26th request that's sent out. So we bring up a notepad and we could type 1 or type Z as the first character and so forth and so on. But let's say we need to do multiple things at the same time. And we want to do that for all 20 characters without us doing this individually. Well, what we can manage to do is we can come back here. So remember, the A is already set for the actual character, but we can say the placement of the character, that first one here after password, we'll put our payload around that one. Actually, you know what? Let's go back to our repeater and let's just resend this. Makes it not as messy, right? So we're going to go to the 1 and we're going to actually clear everything, then add our payload to that, and then we're going to add payload marks to this A, add payloads there. Yes, so what we need to do is go to sniper attack and change it to cluster bomb, since we want to allocate a payload set to each position, so that way intruder iterates through all possible combinations of each set. So the first one here, on 1, we want this to go through the numbered list, right? So we want to set it to go from 1 to 20, since we know there's 20 characters in the password, and you want to go step up just once at a time. Now for A, which is the 2-A up here, we will want to do the brute forcer, which is the A through Z, 0 through 9, with a minimum characters of 1 and a maximum character of 1. So this will be 722 counts. Well, let's just see if our grep is still there. It's not, but we could just add it real quick. What would we say? Error. And then we have that added in. And let's go ahead and start the attack. Yes, since we're using the Community Edition, we will be throttled. And this is going to take quite a while. This will take quite a while. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens. Oh, look, we have 1 already. So position 11 in the password we know is the letter A. So I have mine set by this error count, which is 5. Oh, we got another one. And another one. So we know character payload 7 and also 8 are also going to be B. So, and we'll just let this go. I'm going to pause the video and I'll be back once this finishes. Do you know this could take quite a while? So expect to be here for an hour. All right, see you guys soon. Greetings, salutations, welcome back. It's been only about almost 3 hours, it feels. But as you see, the payloads, the characters of 1 through 20, we have them with the 5 errors, which means we click on one, we click on response, we go to render, has the error. So what I've done, I placed them all here in sequential order. So let's go back to our lab. Let's go to my account and let's go ahead and just copy the administrator account there. And then let's go ahead and copy this password, paste that in. And as you see, we have logged in as administrator. Congratulations, you have solved the lab. If you've made it this far, I'm proud of you. You've done a great job. As we can see, there's more than one way to do blind SQL injection, but it does take a lot of patience. This probably would have been faster if I would have done each digit itself separately than versus trying to do all of them at once. But it's good to know this is possible in case you need to do multitask other work simultaneously. But nonetheless, thank you for joining me. I want you to stay safe, stay secure, and stay ethical. Until next time, guys. Bye-bye.